Hey, what's going on, everybody? Welcome back to the Timeless Movie Podcast, episode number 148. My name is Victor Vasquez. Appreciate you joining me on this episode and this channel where all we do is talk about movies. This week is super exciting because of the fact that we actually had two movies come out this weekend. So we're going to break them out into two different episodes. So again, a lot of stuff that's going to be coming out, even though, yes, summer's over, but we still got a lot of movies to cover for the rest of the year in 2025. So if you want to voice your opinions, if you want to have a nice discussion about which movies are timeless, which movies can you see yourself rewatching in the future, or maybe even buying it for your own physical media collection, well, this is the right place to voice your opinions. Timeless Movie Podcast is available on platforms like Spotify, YouTube, Apple Podcasts. Do the easy thing, guys. We'd love your guys' feedback. So make sure to subscribe. Make sure to follow this specific channel. Make sure to comment. If you ever want to interact with us on social media, Timeless Movie Podcast is available on those platforms like Instagram, Threads, Blue Sky, all one word, Timeless Movie Podcast. Also, an email if you want to submit any questions, any kind of topics that you want to hear on the podcast. Happy to do that as well. The email is in the description of YouTube, but in case you want to search it up, it is timelessmoviepod@gmail.com. All right, before we jump into this week's episode, I did want to highlight that episode 147 is available on all platforms, in which I talked about Honey Don't, the new film from one half of the Coen brothers, Ethan Coen. And I had some thoughts. I had some interesting kind of things that I ended up talking about in that specific episode. So if you want to listen to it, and after you've seen Honey Don't, go ahead and check it out and let me know if you agree or disagree with some of my opinions. Okay, enough housekeeping. Let's jump into this week's new movie, in which we are talking about the new film from Jay Roach, and it is called The Roses. The Roses stars Olivia Colman and Benedict Cumberbatch, as well as a couple of other actors. This film is actually a remake or a reinterpretation of another film called War of the Roses. And that film, that I believe came out in the 1980s or 90s, is another reinterpretation of a novel as well. So we're almost like in a very similar situation to a prior movie that we talked about called Highest to Lowest, which is just a reinterpretation of another piece of art as well. So this film is a comedy, and it kind of just tries to deal with a relationship that seems like it's breaking down. As soon as I saw the trailers for it, I wanted to check this out because I really liked Benedict Cumberbatch, seeing him in so many Marvel movies as Doctor Strange, but I've also really enjoyed Olivia Colman. Whenever she's come out and in different types of TV series or movies, she always is lights out. And so those are just some of the general thoughts that I had before checking this out. Now that it's out in theaters, we got to check it out on opening night. Let's move over to the non-spoiler section. That way I can provide a little bit more context about this movie. All right, The Roses is directed by Jay Roach. Jay Roach, if you are not aware, has filmed and directed different movies such as the Austin Powers trilogy. He made films like Dinner with Schmucks, Bombshell, as well as Meet the Fockers. So he has really great experience in regards to making different types of comedies, and The Roses is no different. It is a comedy. There is drama also involved in this film as well, but again, we'll talk a little bit about that later. Also, the film stars Olivia Colman and Benedict Cumberbatch, as well as Kate McKinnon from SNL, as well as Andy Samberg. So again, veterans from SNL combining with some of the veterans of actors in Benedict Cumberbatch and Olivia Colman makes for a nice little mix. So what is The Roses about? Well, this film deals with the relationship of Theo, played by Benedict Cumberbatch, and Ivy, played by Olivia Colman. They are a couple that has been together for 10 years by the time you actually get to meet them. And you have at this moment in time where Theo is a very well-known architect. He is trying to build his masterpiece, his magnum opus. And then you have Ivy, who is a cook. She used to cook at a restaurant, but then it's kind of put that aside as she started taking care of their two kids. And so she really hasn't been able to show her skills to the world. And then one day, everything flips. The design, the magnum opus of Theo ends up crashing and crumbling down literally in front of him. And then you have Ivy, who opens up a restaurant and she actually gets famous off of a review, and more people want to check out the restaurant. She ends up opening even more around the US. And so now both Theo and Ivy end up swapping in regards to their success. And this ends up leading to some chaotic situations with their family, between each other, between friends. And then it ends up really coming down to the question of, should we be together? Is this the right move? Because you have Theo, who's just not comfortable with being a failure. And then you have Ivy, who is just not comfortable with having so much success. And so that's kind of where I'll leave it. There's a lot of different types of things that'll happen in this movie, but overall, I had such a blast watching this movie. I thought this movie was really great as a comedy, but also great combination as a drama. I'll kind of delve into a little bit of the details in the next section that I have here, as well as the spoiler section. But I don't know, they balance both of those pieces really well, and there's so many hilarious moments. I'm really glad that, especially for comedy, comedy trailers will sometimes show the best jokes because they want people to come to the theaters and check out the movie. And although they did highlight a lot of the good jokes in the trailer, in the movie The Roses, there was still plenty of other situations that were just as hilarious or maybe even funnier as well. So I enjoyed this one so much. Let me give you some high-level pros and cons. That way you have a little bit more sense as to why I liked it, or little things that maybe I didn't like. Okay, first pro that I got to call out of The Roses has got to be the drama. So, apart from the movie being funny, that's an obvious one. It's a comedy. I'm not going to delve into too much as to why it was so funny, but I think it's actually so cool that although it is a comedic experience that you're trying to see on screen, really what keeps you so interested in this story is the relationship between Theo and Ivy. It's the drama that they both face, because at the center of it, everybody that watches this movie has been in some type of a relationship that could be in some way similar. Now, in The Roses, obviously very exaggerated, but there are pieces that, if you have been in some type of a romantic relationship, you feel like you've been a part of this in some way, where yes, you have that honeymoon phase, but then eventually you get so comfortable with the other person that some things just start really upsetting you about what they do. And so there's different areas that you start noticing Theo and Ivy start getting into. And again, it's very relatable. But also, apart from the relationship aspect of it being very, common, that a lot of people can really relate themselves and their lives to, I think it's also the characters of Theo and Ivy that are how they set those characters up. Really, they have a lot of depth and they're flawed. But again, all humans are flawed. And so I feel like you can see yourself in either one of these characters. For example, Theo in this movie, he is an architect, but he ends up becoming a failure because his design completely just crashes and is ruined. And then you see him at rock bottom and how he's just trying to work his way up, the sacrifices that he has to do, but you see the ego on him. And so I feel like, again, a lot of us, I know I've had moments where you feel like you just don't have that lucky break, and you just feel like everything is going against you, and when is it going to turn around? And so that's what Theo feels in this movie when he sees Ivy have so much success. And then on the other hand, you have Ivy, who's such a character that is relatable, because all of us maybe have had a moment where we're finding so much success, we're on a roll, but then people around you start feeling like you're forgetting them. Like the kids that Theo and Ivy have, they feel like they haven't seen their mom in a long time ever since she opened the restaurant. And so it's those little details that, again, it's not just a funny movie. That's just an extra piece of it. It's really this relationship that is crumbling in front of you because of these two people that are just at different paths in their lives. So that's one big pro, is really the drama that ensues within The Roses. Okay, second pro for me has got to be, and I feel like I say this all the time, so again, apologies, guys, if you listen to the podcast. This is going to be a broken record moment, but I really think that the strength of this movie is in the performances of the characters, specifically the two big names of this movie, Olivia Colman, Benedict Cumberbatch. I mean, they are A-list actors, either in TV or in film, but you know that anytime you have these two, they are going to be lights out and really hit home runs with whatever they're being presented with in their roles. And in The Roses, it's no different. You have Olivia Colman and Benedict Cumberbatch playing these roles where they're a couple, but their chemistry is so good that you actually believe that they're a couple. And they just have such great witty lines, and how they deliver those lines again adds to the humor of the movie, adds to their relationship, and the different types of complexities that you get to see as the story plays out. So it makes it very easy to enjoy a movie when you can really believe these two characters, these two protagonists, they actually love each other. They actually have some type of feelings for each other, and they don't want each other to get hurt. But at the same time, when you're at a point where you want to get divorced, there's no rules. It becomes a war essentially. So you see that later on in the movie. But gotta give a shout out to Benedict Cumberbatch and Olivia Colman. They really just nail their roles and just add to the humor of this movie. Okay, I do have one slight con. This is just a nitpick and just something that's going to sound so dumb, but I actually wish there was more of Theo and Ivy's kids. They actually were some of the funnier parts of this movie, and I'm actually glad that they didn't highlight that in the trailer. They continued to just show what Theo and Ivy were going through, how their relationship, how their banter would seem on the outside like it was very playful, but on the inside it was actually a little bit of negativity, a little bit of hatred. And then when you actually watch the movie, Theo and Ivy's kids actually have a bigger part to play. They have some hilarious scenes and moments, and just what they do in the film is just so funny. So that caught me off guard. And so I guess my nitpick is I wish we had more of them, because we only get them for a couple of moments and a couple of scenes. If they were included in much more of the story, I feel like it just would have made this movie even funnier. All right. Those are all the pros and cons that I had. I know that that one nitpick isn't really a true con, but it's just me selfishly wanting more of these characters of Theo and Ivy's kids. Moving on to the recommendation piece of this, which is, should you go watch this in theaters? Should you wait for streaming, or should you skip it? My opinion, I'm actually going to say that this is actually a great movie to watch in theaters. Again, it's a comedy. You'll definitely laugh. Well, let me take that back. You're not going to definitely laugh, because, again, what I might find funny, you might not find funny at all. But in my opinion, I thought they landed some really good jokes. And it's not all just punchlines and really good joke setup. Sometimes it's just the banter between Olivia Colman and Benedict Cumberbatch that makes you laugh. So my recommendation, go check this one out in theaters. It's a great time, and I feel like it'll still be relatable in different aspects other than just the jokes. All right, that is all of the non-spoiler section that I wanted to talk through. Let's start spoiling some stuff and talk a little bit more in depth and really answer the big question. Is this movie timeless? Is it something that I can see myself rewatching in the future? But before we get there, if you have not seen the movie, please jump out of the video now. Watch The Roses, go to a theater, and then come back. Whether you're listening on Spotify or YouTube, leave a comment. There's a comment section in both of those areas. And then on Apple Podcasts, we'll leave a review. Very quick, 30 seconds. Let me know what your thoughts are on the podcast as well as this episode. Okay, rambled long enough to get anybody that doesn't want to be spoiled out of the video or out of the audio platform. So let's go ahead now and dive into spoilers with this first question. Is The Roses timeless? Is it something that I can see myself, me, Victor, see myself rewatching this comedy in the future? I got to say that The Roses just barely is a timeless movie. I think comedies, to be quite honest with you, are a little bit easier to be timeless. Comedies, if they make you laugh, and if that laugh is consistent throughout the entire movie, and those scenes, you can remember them even after you left the theater, and you're kind of reciting them to yourself or reciting them to your partner, to me, that it's a clear sign that this is a movie that you can definitely rewatch, because it's still going to make you laugh and get that reaction. And so I feel like comedies are a little bit easier of a genre to want to rewatch as compared to like a horror or a drama, something a little bit more serious. But to me, the Roses is a timeless movie. Let me explain a little bit why. First reason is the ending of this movie. I thought they really set up a great third act where you have Theo and Ivy getting into this specific spat where they are getting divorced. You have Ivy who wants to take ownership of the house that they lived in. But the tricky thing is that, well, Theo created the house. He's an architect. He built the house and he feels like he should have it, but they have a dispute over that. And then they set up this very tension-filled third act where Theo and Ivy are at a point where they're ready to kill each other essentially. And then they finally find a resolution. They are able to really do what is a struggle in every relationship, which is obviously the communication piece. They finally get to talk and tell each other their true feelings. That even though they hated each other, even though they drove each other crazy, they couldn't live without each other. They still loved each other through and through. And so once they have that resolution, you think that it's going to be a happy ending, but no. What ends up happening is that as they're going through this very tension-filled third act, they have a point where Ivy is pointing a gun at Theo. Theo ends up trying to break and destroy a Julia Child stove that Ivy really loved. And then once they go through and let's skip ahead a little bit to the end of that resolution, what the characters don't realize is that after Theo destroyed the stove, he actually started messing with the gas line and gas is filling the entire house. And as Theo and Ivy are kissing and making up, you hear that one line that Ivy says, which is "till death do us part." And then Theo says the magic words of "lights on" in the house because it's a smart house. And as soon as the fire, you hear it in the background turn on, everything goes to white. And you're basically, the audience is left to interpret whether they died because the gas filled house just erupted in a flame, or if they survived somehow. So I really dug how that ending was just completely set up from the beginning all the way to, again, you having to choose, did they make it out alive or did they just perish? Obviously a very sad ending if they did end up dying, but at least they were able to resolve their conflict and at the end tell each other what they really felt, which is that they loved each other. So that, to me, that ending, I think it just hit a spot where, oh man, I really dug that. Because again, very rare that you see a comedy in this way end on almost like a sad note, but yet you weren't left sad. You were left like just in disbelief of like, whoa, I can't believe they are insinuating that the characters didn't make it. So that I really dug. Second pro, or not pro, but really second reason why I think this movie is timeless is the chemistry and dynamic between Olivia Colman and Benedict Cumberbatch. I mentioned this as one of my pros, but my goodness, anytime they had a conversation together, that was some of the best scenes and the best moments and sometimes the funniest moments of this movie. And it's so crazy because of the fact that, again, you're thinking, okay, well, what situations are they going to get into? But sometimes you didn't need any situation to make it funny. Their banter together between Olivia Colman and Benedict Cumberbatch, that was all you needed. Again, I mentioned this a little bit in the non-spoiler section, but the way that they were able to make their relationship so believable after 10 years or 12 years of being together, and they would banter back and forth. So much passive aggressive comments that were made between two characters, yet it all never felt like it was exaggerated. It all felt so authentic. And so that's, again, one of the reasons why this movie works is that I can definitely sit down and watch these two just go back and forth, and those passive aggressive comments almost become like the way that they flirt because of how many years that they've been together. To me, one of the best scenes in the movie is when they're, again, the beginning of the third act, when they're sitting at a dinner table after a disastrous dinner with their friends, and they try to have a heart-to-heart, but they still are not ready to tell each other how they really feel. So instead, they just start jabbing each other back and forth. But the emotion, the raw feeling that you get from both Theo and Ivy, both Olivia Colman and Benedict Cumberbatch, tears falling down in their eyes. And again, it just feels like you're listening in on and watching a real couple and their relationship just being destroyed in front of you. So that just goes to how great Olivia Colman and Benedict Cumberbatch are. They just killed it in this movie in their roles. And then the last piece as to why I think this movie is timeless is the side characters in this movie. There's just some really funny characters like Kate McKinnon and Andy Samberg. They are a couple and they also play the friends of Theo and Ivy, but they both also have some very funny moments, especially Kate McKinnon. She plays the character Amy, and the entire movie, she is basically trying to almost convince Theo that she wants to have sex with him. And and she does it in such a way where like she's like miming words to Theo. She does it behind her husband's back. And so it is just so funny. And then there's this moment where she's like hugging Theo, and then she's like her legs are shaking because she's just such in awe of like being able to hold and touch Theo. So many great stuff. Again, I'm pretty sure I'm missing some of the other laughs and funny moments that even Andy Samberg had. But yeah, again, those side characters, I'm even included Theo and Ivy's kids. They also had some great moments as well. But again, I think what makes another movie, or what makes this movie so successful and why it's timeless for me, is the fact that you have these additional characters that complement Theo and Ivy. When they're trying to be really serious and talking about the relationship and really having this back and forth, you have this tension, or you have this relief of tension by these side characters that are making some either hilarious jokes or saying some ridiculous things. So it all just works. All right, everybody. Those are my thoughts on the roses. Now, I always like to mention this on the podcast. These are just my personal opinions. It doesn't mean that it's right. It just means that at the moment that I saw the movie, I really enjoyed it. But I always like to end this podcast by really pointing it to the audience, pointing it to you guys. What do you think of The Roses? Did you have a chance to check it out? And if you did, let me know down below in the comments or leave a review. And let me know if you think the movie is timeless. Who was your favorite character? Did you enjoy the performances? And what was your favorite moment? I would love to interact with you guys either on social media or on the audio platforms or YouTube, wherever you listen to it. Again, would love to hear your thoughts on this movie. All right, everybody. Thank you so much for listening to my full thoughts of The Roses. My name is Victor Vasquez. This has been episode number 148 of the Timeless Movie Podcast. Make sure to check out the next episode, in which we are going to be covering the new film from Darren Aronofsky, and it's called Caught Stealing. All right, everybody. Appreciate you guys, and I'll talk to you later.